Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylists podcast. I'm Emma Morton-Turner and you're listening to episode 29, Freestyling Friday, your questions answered. So I used to do Freestyling Fridays the last Friday of every month to the Facebook group. I did like Facebook Lives and they went down really well. And some of those questions that I was asked about a year ago, I'm getting asked again by new stylists coming through and people who weren't around a year ago. So I'm going to do just a lone episode today. I have got some people lined up for some really cool episodes. I've got someone lined up to talk about how to get featured in magazines doing real homes and makeovers. I've got a pension guy lined up. I'm hopefully going to be getting a date through for an insurance guy so we can talk about kind of covering ourselves and making sure we're working efficiently. But today I'm just going to answer the questions. There's some from stylists, there's some from assistants, and it's just basically about the work that we do. And you know how the Facebook group that I've built and then turned into the Inside Stylists website is all about these questions that we all are in the same boat, and it's quite hard to find someone to answer those questions if they don't understand our kind of crazy interiors world. So some assistant questions, some stylist questions. I've got 10. I'm going to just rattle through them. I think this is probably going to be a nice, quick, short episode. I should also say that if anyone has any questions, please send them through because I'm going to do these every now and again. And when I've got a few that haven't been answered, I will do I will do another one. And also, a lot of the reason I'm doing this one now is because I've had quite a few people coming to me, like the episode I did about 10 reasons why not to become an interior stylist. That was because I had a number of questions about being an interior designer and then becoming an interior stylist. The same thing has happened. A lot of assistants have asked me the same question. So anyway, number 1. I'm often required to spend large sums of money on props and materials for features and shoots. The client and I agree a written or verbal budget for these items and then I add the receipts to my invoice. This leaves me out of pocket, especially if I have several jobs on the go or a build up of invoices. What does everyone else do? I would really like some advice on how to get my clients to pay me in advance for the props and the costs prior to the shoot. Does everyone else use a template letter? Would they refuse to do a job without an advance? I know I could put it on a credit card, but I'd rather not. I don't have a credit card and then I'd be paying interest. So this has come up a number of times and the person who sent this in is a very established interior stylist. And I think she's exactly where I've been in the past, where you get really busy. You have 3 shoots that you're either working on or have just worked on. You've laid out about £1,000 minimum for each shoot. And then one stops paying and you're £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 down. And it's impossible to work under those circumstances and eat. So I think about 3 years ago, I decided that this wasn't going to work. And also, I didn't know people asked for advance. I knew people asked for advances, but I always thought, oh, if it's only £500, I'll just whack it on a credit card because you think people will pay on time. So now what I do is I ask for an advance before I do a shoot. Usually when someone asks you to do a job, they'll ask for your rate card. So at the bottom of my rate card, there's a little NB. Please be aware that I will need an advance for any props that need to be bought before the shoot. Like committing or asking me to do this job, I'm assuming that you are okay with this. So I've put it on my rate card, but I never assume people have seen that. Then when you do the backwards and forwards, getting dates and things together, I just reiterate it. Just checking you saw that I'll need an advance for the props budget. Do you have a budget in mind? Shall I send you the invoice directly today? So it's kind of like I'm just going to send you an invoice for that advance and then they are very aware of it. If they say no, I mean, it does depend on how much it is. If it's a small job and it's going to be maybe 100, 200, then I will just deal with it. But once it gets to £500 or even £400, it adds up. If you've got a couple of jobs on the go, that adds up so quickly. And then if it only takes one client not to pay for that to really screw with your money. So I pretty much only do advances on shoots now. The only exception to this is when I've got a shoot that I've got lined up and they ask me on Monday and it's going to happen the following Monday and it's a really short timeline, very small turnaround. I might say, look, normally I ask for an advance, but can you guarantee me that you will pay me within 7 days? And this has only happened with a client I've worked with previously that I've agreed to do that, because actually it was more beneficial for me to just get the props while I was out and about rather than having to wait and go back into town the next day. So that has worked really well, because it's quite nice, because then I just get paid for my styling work and the props all in one go in 7 days. In fact, I think I'd rather have that. I'd rather lay out and then be paid quickly rather than waiting 6 weeks after the overdue date. Anyway, so that is how I deal with it. I'm going to talk about rate cards again in a later question, and we'll talk about that in more detail. Number 2, this is from an assistant. How do I put myself out there as a new stylist, moving from assistant to doing my own shoots? I feel ready, but I'm not sure where to start. Now, this is a question I get asked a lot. It is something that you need to be ready for. You need to feel that you are ready. I think that gets to a point where you've just had enough of assisting and you're quite frustrated watching someone else doing it because you think, I want to do that. I know it takes a bit longer now than it did back in the day, but I think in your heart of hearts you will know. And the best way to do it is to get experience. So I would definitely recommend doing test shoots, because then you are experiencing how to be a lead stylist without anyone breathing down your neck, without any expectations from a client or a PR or a marketing manager. If you just put shoots together yourself, you get a little bit of a feel for how it feels looking through the camera, because when you're the lead stylist, there's a very different feel than when you're standing on the sidelines looking at someone else doing it, thinking, oh no, that vase needs to be over there and that chair's in the wrong place. When you're making the decisions, it's got a very different vibe. So test shoots are definitely a really good way to get that experience. I did a Freestyling Friday assistant special with Sarah Bird, which is episode 10. We talk a lot about test shoots in that. So go and have a listen to that one, and that will tell you all about how to do test shoots. But that will help you have a portfolio and give you something to talk about. And also, and then the next question, and this ties in with the next question, which has the same advice to the assistants. The next question is, how do I get my name out there after a break in my career? Read, long stay-at-home mum kind of break of 5 years. I feel like I have to start again from the beginning. So this is the same for someone coming back into styling after a career break, and also to the new assistants who are going out there on their own for the first time. The easiest way to get work is to speak to people. And really, you need to be speaking to the PRs, you need to be speaking to small brands, you need to get out there and talk to people. So whenever you see a press launch, if you can get there, go to the press launch, speak to the PRs, introduce yourself, let them know who you are. Coming back to styling, it's more important than ever. I mean, I don't think anyone should ever have to start again, but you might feel a bit rusty. Go do a few test shoots, get some more clients under your belt by speaking to smaller brands, maybe doing smaller shoots. But also, it's really good to take PRs for coffee and just catch up and just say, look, I'm coming back. I just wanted to catch up. Show me what your clients are doing at the moment, because PRs are all about showing you what their clients do, obviously. So coffee meetings are a great way to do that, and you're building a relationship. This business is built on relationships. So go out there, speak to people, meet up, build those relationships. It's the same for assistants as it is for people returning to work. Number 4. Now, the next few questions or subjects are about Instagram. Why are we not being credited by clients when they post our styled shots on Instagram? It makes me furious, especially when photographers are credited. This is an ongoing thing. Another rate card moment. It would be a really good idea to bring this up before you do a shoot, because this is becoming, Instagram, when this question was asked a year ago, Instagram has moved on so much since then. So it's even more important to be Notegram, because you can be credited and linked through to, and people can find you, and it will help you build your portfolio. It will help build up your styling name or your assisting name. So what I do now is I put it on my rate card again. God, everything's about the rate card. It's almost like a contract. Just saying, would really appreciate it if you would credit me in any shots. But also, when this came up, I remember I was on a shoot not long after, and I mentioned it to the marketing manager and said, look, is there a reason why this doesn't happen? And she said, didn't even think of it. So I will bring it up. I haven't brought it up for a while because it's just slipped my mind, really. But usually I will repost an image that someone has like if a client uses one of my images and I'm not credited, I will repost it and say, loved doing this shoot. So people will know. But obviously you want to be credited by the brand who has tens of thousands of followers. But if you bring it up on the shoot and just say, would really appreciate it if I could be credited, especially if they're crediting the photographer, there's no reason why they can't credit you. So just bring it up in a conversation, and you can always say, look, who does your social media managing? Can I drop them a line and ask them to do it? And I'm sure it's not a problem, because you can be down in the hashtags. It's not like you need a really big flashy credit. You just need your name associated with the beautiful shot that you've styled. I hope that answers that question. This isn't a question. This is a conversation we were having about Instagram, and it was just a really important thing to bring up, I think. So there's good practices on Instagram when it comes to crediting and styling. And there was a time where people were on shoots and images were being taken and put on Instagram accounts and not credited correctly. And it felt like assistants might be doing shots but being quite misleading in who is the stylist and who is the assistant, especially when there's that blurred line of I'm doing assisting but really I'm doing my own jobs occasionally because I'm nearly crossing over to the other side. So it's really important to make sure that when you're posting to Instagram, if you are taking shots on a shoot or at a press launch, that you credit correctly. So make sure you say I'm assisting, or assisting so and so, crediting the photographer, the set builder, whoever is on the shoot. It's that whole Instagram share the love. The more you share, it just kind of, sharing is caring. God, I really shouldn't say that. That's so cheesy, but it's true. Everyone wants to be credited. The more we share with each other or share each other, the more we all kind of promote ourselves, which, let's face it, that's what Inside Stylist is all about. It's about promoting interiors and promoting what we do. Now, I have to say, hands up, I've been absolutely rubbish at this, and Cassia, Cosmo and Plums, has assisted me for ages, and I am rubbish at crediting everybody, and I just do a quick snapshot of some flowers and then go, oh yeah, on this shoot, la la la, and don't do it. So apologies to Cassia for that, because Cassia will credit me and I'm like, bloody hell, I forgot to put her name on again, I'm rubbish at this. So yeah, feel free to call people out on it if they're not doing it. Go, oh, you didn't mention me, if you could next time please, especially if you're working with me. So yeah, you need to credit with the right people. Actually, I got completely off topic there. What I wanted to say was, what is a really good practice is when you're setting up an event. I did an event one time where I had to be unloaded the van before 8 o'clock and dressed the room by 10 o'clock out. Like literally people were starting to arrive at 10. So when you're on a shoot, a setup like that, and it's really crazy busy, you don't have time to stop and you don't have time to stop and think or pee or do anything. So it's impossible to take shots as you go. But it's really good if you get an assistant and you say, would you mind taking some shots for me with your phone and then sharing them with me, so that you can then credit everybody and everyone gets a shot to share, if you know what I mean. So that was something that was happening. Theatre Solom's Isles was doing a shoot with Mihaela, and they were doing that, and they did it so well, and they just did it in a way that everyone was very happy and very promoted, and it made you feel like it was a real team effort, and it looked really good. And I've always thought that is the way to do it. So hats off to you guys. And number 6, last one on Instagram, is when I do shoots, maybe for Talking Tables a few times, there's been some shoots and the products are embargoed. If I was doing Halloween and it was, I don't know, May or something, Talking Tables aren't going to want their competitors to see what they're doing, because if I'm shooting in May and the product's coming out in time for Halloween, there's time for their competitors to copy that. So make sure, I mean, stylists know this, but assistants might not, make sure you have permission to share the products, because very often you can't. And hopefully you're in a lovely location and you can take pictures of the location, and that will be just as beautiful. But double check whether you're allowed to post about these products in case they're embargoed. Number 7, I'm an assistant and I want to go to press launches but find it really scary. Serious imposter syndrome kicking in. How should I approach press launches like a pro? So I actually did a blog post about this. I'll share it in the show notes, because I remember my first press launch and I was petrified. I felt imposter syndrome was exactly what I felt. I was doing work experience. I'd been doing it for like 2 months. I had no idea what I was doing. I had been to press launches with other, like when I was assisting, I would go with people from the magazine. So I did know how it worked, But when I went on my own for the first time, I did feel like I was kind of a bit naughty being there, because I had no right, because I wasn't like going to be featuring anyone in a magazine or anything. But you can read about that in the blog post. I was doing work experience at Living Etc. at the time, and they had actually said, we can't get out of the office, we're too busy, can you go to this press launch and come back to us? In hindsight, I now see that I think they didn't have enough work to give me, and they were just getting me out from under their feet. So I'm like, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? I must have been such a pain. Anyway, so go read that. And that literally tells you how to do it. But the thing I would say is that you really need to remember that you are important in this kind of grand world of interior styling. The assistants of today are the rising stars of tomorrow. I have said it many times, and I talk to PRs about it all the time. And I'm not sure if I have mentioned, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but some of the people who assisted me when I first went freelance are now running You Magazine or House to Home. They're heading up Ideal Home Features. They're people who have started as assistants and worked their way up the top, and PRs know this. They know that you come from an assistant position to a magazine, newspaper, big online website. There are reasons that they want to talk to you now. They want to build a relationship with you now. So go to the press launches, have a read of that post, see how the mentality you need to be. The PRs want to share. The PRs want you to share their products. They want their clients to get promoted as much as possible. And if that means you are sharing a hashtag and sharing images on your Instagram stories or on Facebook, they will love it. They want to meet you now, so they build that relationship with you going ahead. And it is definitely somewhere you should be going. They are fine with it. And if you think of it in terms of when I share press invites, I've got an event calendar on Inside Stylists where all the press invites are going to be shared. If I'm sharing that, I have permission to share that with assistants, stylists and writers. They know you're seeing it. They know you're going to be invited. So they know that you are going to come. So don't ever feel imposter syndrome. I actually watched a YouTube video about imposter syndrome a little while ago, and it was really interesting. It was this woman, she studied at Oxford or something, and she was really intelligent, but she really struggled with imposter syndrome. And she went up to her lecturer, who was some professor from some professor, and she said to her, how do I deal with this imposter syndrome? And she said, there's only one way you can do it. That is to do your best. If you do your absolute best in any situation, you couldn't do more. And then you have to just accept that that is it. You can't be an imposter because you've done everything you possibly can. And I can't remember what I was struggling with at the time, but whatever it was, I know it really helped. So now I tell it to my kids, just do your best. Your best is all you can do. So don't be scared. Stand up straight, take a deep breath and go dive in. Number 8. Oh, this is a biggie. Should I work for free? Now, I can't remember who asked this. This is one of the questions I've taken from a previous post from last year. The answer is, this is your personal preference. In general, my instant reaction is to say, no, why should you work for free? Everybody should be paid. And everybody should be paid, but there are exceptions and there are kind of ways around it. It's completely your decision. I have a cake blog that I don't write on it so much now, but when in the thick of it, I used to get asked if I would like to feature all sorts of products, and I'd take product placement in place of money. And I used to love that. I got really excited by that at the beginning. So I was getting expensive cake tins and stuff. But what I then realised was I was getting a £30 cake tin, because I like the top quality ones. And I was spending loads of time writing it. I'd be baking a product, like baking something with that cake tin. I would then be shooting that cake tin, writing the recipe, writing the blog post, editing it, doing all the social media shit. I would probably spend 6 hours on this £20 or £30 cake tin. And although it sounds nice and you get quite flattered by it, there is a point where you think, what the F am I doing? This really isn't worth it. So also, how many cake tins does one person need? Anyway, I'm just using that as an example. I think product placement is quite an easy thing to do. I mean, if you're getting something like some beautiful linen, bed linen that's 150 quid and you really need new bed linen, game on. And obviously that is talking about whether you're doing a blog post or writing a feature or doing a shoot for a small brand and they can't afford to pay, they might say, look, I can give you a product in place of payment, which of course you are duty bound to declare, because that is almost like being paid. So you on your tax form, I don't know how you do that, but I know that you're supposed to. I should probably find that out actually. So there are ways that you can work for free. It depends on your level, it depends on your situation, but if you have a client come up to you and say, I haven't got a budget, I really need to do a shoot and I love your style, would you consider doing this for free for me? You could quite easily say, well, that's very nice, I can do it for product, or you can just accept that this is a freebie, you're building a relationship, and make it quite clear that here's my rate card, I can do half a day shoot for you for free, but moving forward, this is my rate card and this is what I will charge, so that they know it's not just a freebie. The other exception is work experience. So there's been quite a lot of hoo-ha about people shouldn't work for free ever. But actually in this industry, I think there is an element of needing to get experience, because I have had assistants on shoots who are not up to scratch and aren't in the right place. They don't know what they're doing. And actually sometimes you need someone to do a bit of work experience to see if they're worth having on a shoot again, which sounds quite heartless, but actually I need someone who's going to come and pick up the pieces and be my right hand man without me having to tell them everything. So if someone comes on as work experience, I won't expect them to know what to do. I will know that I'm going from a place of a teacher. I'm going to show you what I need from you as an assistant. I'm going to show you what the ropes are for the job. And in that case, if it's work experience, then I think, yeah, you can probably work for free. I would never style for free, but I would assist for free. And also, if I have someone come on as a work experience and they're really good, I wouldn't ask them a second time and then not pay them. If they're good, then they're worth paying and they get an assistance fee. But I would probably think if you haven't been doing it long and you just want to get a bit of experience, then yeah, you get a nice big lunch and you get your travel paid for, but you probably aren't going to get a fee. And I think that's probably how a lot of people work. I think it's frowned upon massively, but I think that is what is happening in general. I think I've answered that and not answered that all in one go. If you've got ideas, please comment below on the show notes, because I'd love to hear what you think about this. Because in the real world, you do have to work for free at the very beginning, but in an ideal world, everyone would get paid, but budgets have to be stretched to fit. So this one is very similar actually. Number 9. I've been asked to do a shoot by a company who don't want to pay for an experienced stylist. I've been assisting for a while and I'm probably ready to go full-time styling, but should I charge a junior stylist fee to begin with before I get experienced? So basically they're on the cusp of stopping assisting and starting just styling, and they think they should charge a lesser rate because they don't think they're experienced. This is imposter syndrome again, isn't it? So basically the answer to this is no. There is no junior fee. There is a styling fee. When you go in at a low rate, say half or 3/4 of what a styling rate is, you are never going to get that rate up again. And if you have this rate now, and then 4 years down the line, you're shooting with them twice a year at that really low rate, because it's very hard to get it up, you're not going to do very well. You're not going to be able to pay your bills apart from anything. You need to go in at the rate that you want to be at when you feel experienced. There's a little bit of fake it till you make it, really. And an example I can think of is, or some advice I was given. I went to Peggy Portion. She's a really big cake maker. She's got a beautiful Instagrammable shop in Belgravia. I did a workshop with her once. I've met her a few times, and all the people on the workshop were basically either already cake decorators or wedding cake makers, or just learning new tricks to enhance their careers. And the people who were coming into it were asking her how they should charge for the cakes, because it feels like a lot of money to charge £200 for a 2-tier wedding cake. And she said, you will never get it up. If you don't charge your worth now, you will not get charged your worth later. You must always start with the end in mind. So with styling, start with the end in mind. If you are ready to style, you have to remember that you're being booked to do a job that they can't do on their own. Otherwise, they wouldn't be booking you. You are being booked for your talent. So get that in your head. basically. You are worth it. It's a little bit of imposter syndrome again, isn't it? So I was talking at the very beginning about rate cards, the way to get around dealing with money when you don't want to talk about money. And I think because we're a very creative industry, we're all creatives. None of us want to talk about money. I did a rate card. I can't remember when I did it. It was a while ago now. But basically, I just took a picture from like one of my images and I made it transparent. And then on the top of it, I wrote who I am, a little intro. Hello, I'm Emma MT. I used to be the home editor on Woman and Home, and then I've been a craft editor here and blah, blah, blah. Just a little intro into what I do. And then underneath that, I said, here's some examples of the people and magazines I've worked with. And then underneath that, I say, and here's my charges. Here's what I charge, my day rate, my fee for an assistant, my fee for travel. Here, please note that I will be charging you. I will need an advance for props. And then all my contact details at the bottom. I think I'm going to do a blog post on how I've done my rate card and the benefits of having one, because I think there's quite a few, I've mentioned it a few times, and I think it would be really, really beneficial to people. So I'll try and get that out next week. But if you've got a rate card, whenever anyone asks you about money, you can say, I'll send you my rate card. You don't even have to tell them what you charge, because if you tell them and you go, oh, well, I charge X amount and is that all right? And I feel a bit difficult, a bit uncomfortable. Oh, I hate talking money. So I don't now actually, but back in the day at the beginning, I did. It felt like going from in-house to freelance. The money that you're talking about is such a large amount. It does feel a little bit like, I'm being a bit cheeky here charging this, but actually that's the going rate. Also, if you don't know what to charge, it's worth, especially if you're an assistant, it's worth asking your stylists if they would mind sharing what they charge. I'm not going to say it on here because I can't be seen to be, there's a word for it, I can't remember what it is, but you can't encourage people to charge a certain amount. It's a legal thing. I can't say this is what you should charge. It's legally I can't say that. Find out, just ask a few people you know and feel wouldn't be offended. I don't think anyone would be offended because it's not exactly a secret what we charge. But ask a few people around, get an idea, and then maybe just go in at the lower end. I mean, I have actually increased my fee over the years. I've increased it about 3 times since I've been freelance, which is nearly 8 years. And I kind of do it in January. And then if I've got an existing client, they just stay on the existing rate. I never put other people's rates up. But every time a new client comes in, they get that new rate and then they pay that new rate. You just have to remember who's charging what. Okay, I hope that answers that question. I think it does. And the last question, number 10. Can you charge for taxis to shoots and do you charge overtime? So this is a little bit like... I remember when I was interviewing John Falcon on number 6, he's the accountant, and we were talking about what you can and can't charge. He told me that if you don't have a regular journey to work, you can put that on your tax form as an expense. So if you are not doing a regular, I travel in on the train at 10 o'clock and I come back at 5 o'clock and I do that every day, that what we do is very irregular. So you can use that receipt on your tax form. You can basically put it on your tax form as an expense. If you're working for a client, then it's not different, but actually you need to just agree that in advance. The chances are if you are getting a cab to a shoot, it's either because it's really unsociable hours, you need to be there very early or very late, or you've got to carry a lot of stuff and you don't have a car, or you're coming into central London and it's cheaper to get a couple of cabs than it is to get a taxi. Either way, speak to your whoever's booking you in advance. Just run it by them. Just say, it's going to be cheaper to get a cab than a courier. Do you have an agent that you want to book? Do you have a cab service you would like to book that, or shall I do that? Be a little bit presumptuous. I've never been told I can't get a cab. Quite often it's that whole I'm saving you money by booking a cab, not a courier, and it goes down quite well. If you're carrying props, then you can't carry stuff on the train quite often, can you? I think this is very much a commercial setup. On a shoot for an editorial, there's a very likely chance that isn't going to happen. You aren't going to have a budget. But again, speak to whoever's commissioning you, find out from them whether that's going to be okay. So if you can speak to them in advance, you can see if you can put it on your invoice. If you can't put it on your invoice and you're still going to get a cab, you can put it down as an expense on your tax form as one of your working expenses. Overtime, I have only charged overtime, I think something like 3 times. The one was when I was doing an event and the event was supposed to finish at 10. but actually the event ran over till 11 and we didn't finish packing up all the props until 12, and I had a very heavy toolbox to take home. And it was getting a bit ridiculous, and I just said to the client, would it be okay if we got a cab home? Meaning myself and my assistant. And she said, yes, of course. And I was thinking, shall I ask? Am I being a bit cheeky? And then when I asked her, and it was just like water off a duck's back, of course, it's midnight. So sometimes you have to just ask. I mean, really, you haven't lost anything. If they say no, you weren't having one initially, so you've not lost out at all, have you? So I think ask, definitely. I've gone back into cab mode, haven't I? Overtime. Yes, if you are doing more work. So I did essentially a double day. I did a TV ad and we started at 6 a.m. So can you imagine what time we got up? And then we finished at 1 a.m. So it was essentially 2 days. So halfway through, I was just saying to the client, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to have to charge you for 2 days here. And she was like, of course. It's quite funny. The things that we worry about quite often are not a big deal to the client. They're like, well, yeah, you're working ridiculously long hours. Of course you are. So I've charged overtime then. Another time I did a shoot that was supposed to be Tuesday to Friday. And then they wanted to do more. And they asked if I would work on a Saturday. I charged time and a half for the Saturday, and that was fine. And then I think the other thing to remember is that if you're getting overtime, you need to make sure that your assistant is getting overtime too, because they're there on the Saturday and at 1 o'clock in the morning as well. So I charge overtime when it's excessive. If I'm on a shoot and it's not finishing till 8 o'clock and it's supposed to finish at 6, no, I would never dream of charging overtime for that. But if I'm on a shoot and it finishes at 10, then yeah, there might be a little bit of an extra charge going on there. But I would run it by the client. I wouldn't just suddenly charge it. I'd just say, look, I'm just letting you know that because we're finishing so late. And really, even if that then goes back to the cab question, if you're finishing on a shoot at 10 o'clock and you say, I'm going to charge you for the overtime, you can then factor that in as your cab home if they're not going to pay for a cab home. I think that makes sense. Anyway, I hope this has all been super useful for you. I will get myself together and do that rate card blog post and share it with you hopefully next week, because I think that would be really useful for people. I think it's a really good tool for stylists and writers to have things set up in advance. I mean, if you've got a contract, you probably don't need it anyway, but it's a good way of making it look pretty and not having to talk money. Anyway, I hope this has been useful. You'll find all the links today on the show notes at insidestylist.com/Freestyling Friday, September 18. I'm going to try and be quite specific on these links because otherwise you're not going to know which one's which because we're doing quite a few of them. And like I said at the beginning, if you've got any questions that you want answering or some topics you want discussed or guests you want me to have on and to ask questions for, like the pension guy and the insurance guy, then please let me know. Also, if you want me to do a tax one again, I'm sure I can get John back on. It's my brother-in-law after all. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, bye for now.